A wise man once said, if at first you don't succeed, keep repeating the same stupid over and over again, expecting a different result. That wise man was Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And that mistake that he keeps repeating, expecting a different result, is lowering interest rates in order to fight inflation. Yeah, sorry, not how this works, dude. What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special, and I've been talking about the collapse of the Turkish currency, the lira, for a while now. I first talked about it when I made this video on December 21st. At the time, inflation in Turkey was 21%. Turkey had just rolled out their new scheme that was aimed to convince Turkish citizens to dump their dollars in order to prop up the lira. And I mentioned at the time how that plan was doomed to failure and it was only going to make things worse. My next video about Turkey was this one on January 28th. By the time I made that video, inflation in Turkey had risen to 47%. The Turkish power grid was on the brink of failure because Turkey was running out of dollars in order to pay for fuel. And then more recently, I did this video on June 7th when inflation in Turkey had reached 73%, and still President Erdogan had not changed his idiotic, suicidal monetary policy of lowering interest rates to fight inflation. I'll put links to all three of those videos down in the description below. And with that, we are going to shrink my big melon of a head, and let's see what President Erdogan is up to today. Here we go in CNBC just this morning. Turkey shocks market with rate cut despite inflation near 80%. When Erdogan went down this idiotic path, inflation was only 21% back in December. And I said back then it was going to make things worse. Lowering rate encourages more borrowing, which leads to more credit expansion, which increases the money supply, which causes more inflation. This is not complex economics, folks. This is basic economics. Something President Erdogan appears to not understand. Now the rate of inflation has nearly quadrupled since December, and here we go today. He doubles down on this idiotic policy. Its main policy rate, which had been at 14% for the last 7 months, was cut to 13% in a complete mismatch to what other central banks are doing around the world. Analysts expected no rate change. The move lower by the Turkish central bank has taken markets by surprise, and the lira, Turkish currency, slid another 0.9% against the dollar following the news, trading at more than 18.1 to the greenback, near a record low. And check out this chart right here. This is the value of the Turkish lira measured against the dollar. Right now, 1 lira is worth about 5.5 cents versus the US dollar. And you can see all the way back here. Here was the beginning of December when he first lowered interest rates to fight inflation. And of course, the value of his currency plummeted dramatically when he did that. But then Turkey announced their plan to prop up the lira, where Turkish citizens were encouraged to surrender their US dollars and euros to banks in exchange for what was basically a CD scheme insured by their government. And that provided the Turkish central bank with a fresh round of foreign currency that they could then dump on the open market to buy lira and prop up the value. In other words, they were robbing their citizens to prop up their failed currency. This is how the wealth of an entire nation is destroyed. And even though the lira surged on the announcement of that plan, I said in that first video on the 21st that this is only buying them time and it's going to make things worse. And this is just going to make the Turkish people poorer. And as you can see, over time, the lira has just resumed its downward slide because lowering interest rates is not how you fight inflation. And here we are now, where the Turkish lira is now well below the lows seen even back in December before they announced this scheme to prop up the lira. So what on earth is going on now? Why does President Erdogan think he can get away with this? Why does he think this isn't going to cause the lira to plummet even further? Well, that may have something to do with his foreign currency reserves. You see, initially, Turkey had burned through all of its dollars and all of its euros that it had in its banks. They sold those dollars and those euros to buy lira, and doing that drives up the value of the lira. The problem is you only have so many dollars and so many euros to burn through. When Turkey burned through all of its central bank reserves, they convinced their citizens to participate in that KKM plan, which was basically just a government-insured CD. So those citizens turned in their dollars and their euros in exchange for inflation-protected accounts where the Turkish government promised to make up any losses against the dollar those accounts saw. So that gave the Turkish government fresh dollars and fresh euros that they could continue dumping on the open market in order to prop up the lira. Well, eventually they even ran out of those dollars, and that had Turkey turning to outside countries to find new sources of dollars and euros, and that's exactly what they found. And here we go in Bloomberg, dated July 29th. Russia is wiring dollars to Turkey for $20 billion nuclear plant. The money will be used for procurement over the next 2 years. Front-loaded payment alleviates fears of delays over sanctions. And you might be sitting there saying, well, wait a minute, isn't Turkey a NATO ally and isn't Russia sanctioned by the US and the European Union? Well, that didn't stop Turkey from taking $20 billion from the Russians for a nuclear plant. Now, here's the thing. This $20 billion the Russians wired to Turkey, it's supposed to go to paying for a nuclear plant that Turkey now has to build. And what's happening is Turkey is dumping those dollars to buy lira, thinking they'll be able to build the nuclear reactor using lira to pay for it. And in the meantime, by dumping those dollars for lira, they're propping up the value of their currency. So Erdogan got his hands on $20 billion more capital that he can use to prop up his failing currency. Never mind the fact that now he owes a nuclear plant. I guess we'll solve that problem much further down the road. And it wasn't just the Russians that provided Erdogan with fresh sources of dollars for him to dump on the open market in order to prop up the lira. Here we go in the New Arab, dated just a week ago on August 10th. Turkey seeks multi-billion-dollar deposit from foe-turned-friend Saudi Arabia. Amid a spiraling currency crisis, Turkey is reportedly looking to Saudi Arabia to boost its foreign currency reserves. A Turkish treasury source said talks were ongoing to secure a $20 billion deposit from the Gulf Kingdom, Middle East Eye reported on Wednesday. The Turkish newspaper Dunya reported the same day that Ankara expected an initial $10 billion from Saudi Arabia for treasury bonds and accounts. So what's going on here is Turkey got its hands on some fresh foreign currency between the Russians giving them money in advance to build that nuclear power plant and then the Saudis making this big deposit into Turkish banks. Suddenly, these Turkish banks have tens of billions of US dollars that they can dump in the forex markets to buy their own currency, driving the lira's price back up. And Erdogan is gambling that this is enough to offset any of the decline in value of the lira from this latest rate cut. It's not going to work. It's only buying time. Now Turkey owes the Saudis $20 billion, and they owe the Russians a nuclear power plant. And if the lira continues to decline, remember they dumped those dollars in order to buy the lira, so they still have those dollar-denominated liabilities on the books of their bank, and they'll need to print more lira in order to cover them. Much like every other cockamamie scheme that the Turks have tried to prop up their failing currency right now while lowering interest rates to fight inflation, this will not work. They're only delaying the inevitable. You cannot fight inflation by lowering interest rates. Now look, as the great Greg Manarino would say, bring it in, folks. Come in, bring it in. President Erdogan, look, Recep, can I call you Recep? I get it. You have this religious objection to the lending of money at interest. It's fine, I'm not judging. A lot of spiritual people object to usury. You do you, that's okay. But that doesn't give you the right to ruin the lives of 84 million of your people. So get over yourself and cut this crap out. You're making it worse. This isn't going to work. Or just keep doing the same stupid shit over and over again, expecting a different result. Unfortunately, folks, this is just one more of the many insane central bank policies around the world that is causing this currency madness that everyday people are forced to try to navigate, making life a living hell for the average person. Not just in Turkey, but all around the world. If you want to know a little bit more about that, you can check out this video I did about how the strong dollar will kill the dollar. Till next time, live small and dream big.